Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. Feel like I was watching a repeat because this week's Raw was just as boring and lame as last week's Raw. Again, right up until the very end. Anyways, Raw this week, January 13th, 2014, from Providence, Rhode Island. The show starts with a video package for the Wyatt family, Bryan joining them, yada yada. It was mainly just a recap, essentially. And a segue into the first match. After the video, they cut to the ring where the Usos are already in the ring. And the Wyatt music starts, but we get the stupid quick cut thing. And all of a sudden, bam, there's the Wyatts at the bottom of the ramp. The stupid rocking chair. There's Bray with his dopey fucking lantern. And there's Bryan and Harper and Rowan. Whatever. I think this was on this was on SmackDown. So this is basically a rematch from SmackDown. The Usos versus Bray and Daniel Bryan. The crowd is still cheering for Bryan, of course. During the match, the Usos managed to do a double dive out of the ring. Bryan and Bray had already been thrown out of the ring, and they were on the floor, of course. And the Usos come running, they jump over the ropes and dive on top of Bryan and Bray and wipe them both out. And I think it was right after that dive, yeah, I think so, right after the dive, Harper and Rowan attack the Usos, causing a disqualification. And they're in the ring. They get him in the ring, and Bray and Bryan are trying to, finish off the Usos, whatever the fuck. The one Uso, I can't tell which one. He's able to get out of it, and he super kicks Bray, I think, right in the face, and he scrambles out of the ring. And the other Uso is already out of the ring, and they back up the ramp, and they escape, essentially. And the crowd is dead because they don't give a shit. Back in the ring, Bray is yelling at Daniel Bryan and telling him... Or no, it was Bryan that actually took the super kick, I believe. Because he was down and Bray was telling him to get up. And then Bray goes up to Bryan and whispers something in his ear. And then Bryan holds his arms out like how Bray always does, right? And then he gets down on his knees, Bryan does. Again, just like how Bray does. Bray grabs him and cinches him for the Sister Abigail, and he hits it on him. And then Harper and Rowan roll Bryan out of the ring, and they all start leaving together. And again, as before, Bryan kind of pushes Harper and Rowan off. He wants to walk under his own power. Whatever, they all leave in the cutaway gag. And the commentators say John Cena is in action up next. And they cut to commercial. When we come back from the commercial, Damien Sandow is already in the ring. So, guess who's basically getting jobbed out? They use this opportunity to recap Sandow's cash-in from a couple of months ago and the beating that preceded it, which served no other purpose than to just piss me the fuck off and remind me why I hate Cena so much. Sandow beat the shit out of him in that beatdown before the match. Cracked him with the briefcase, beat the fuck out of him, stomped him on the stairs, and Cena was still able to fucking win after Sandow cashed in. And guess what? We get a rematch, basically, of that, although no titles this time, and Cena's fresh as a daisy. After the recap, Cena comes out and we get the match. And even though it was decent, whatever, there was a commercial break. Cena went for the attitude adjustment, but Sandow counters, slides down the back, and goes into the Edge-o-matic, the grab the head and slam it down backwards thing. And shortly after that, Sandow locks in an interesting submission move. It looked like he was going for the sharpshooter, but then he kind of turned it sideways, and I'm like, that's Edge's submission move. He called it the Educator. And Michael Cole blurts out, Sandow calls that the Royal Arch. So, yeah, Sandow has taken 2 of Edge's moves. Yeah. Anyway, Cena's able to get out of it. And, yeah, because, what better way to put over a new submission move than to have somebody just instantly get out of it, right? Nobody instantly got out of Brett's fucking sharpshooter back in the day. Yeah. Nope, but Super Cena just gets right out of it. He basically just rolled back over to, get the pressure off. And it was basically almost immediately. He was only in the hold for about 5, maybe 10 seconds. But yeah, Cena gets out of it. And he goes up top and he's able to hit the stupid tornado DDT that he's been doing lately. Right. And then Sandow managed to come back and he hit this spinning facebuster thing right. It looked like Damien was going for like a normal neck breaker, but instead he it looked more like he was going for a, the backslide, right? But instead of doing that, he grabs Cena by the head, spins around, flips him over, and plants Cena right on his face. So this weird little spinning facebuster thing. Sandow goes for "You're welcome," the full Nelson thing. Cena just kind of jumps up and lands and arm drags Sandow over to throw him off. And Sandow gets up immediately, turns around, and gets tripped, drop toe hold style, by Cena into the STF. Sandow gets the rope break, and then locks in the crippler crossface on Cena. Cena is able to power out of it. He basically just stands up, picks Damien up, gets him up onto his shoulders, hits the attitude adjustment, and wins the match. So of course Cena fucking wins. As I said, despite Cena winning, the match was still decent, mainly because Sandow is so good. After the match, the commentators used this opportunity to hype up another rematch from SmackDown. CM Punk and the Outlaws versus The Shield, which is going to be later on tonight. And they also hype up, we're going to talk about the announcement that was made last Wednesday, I think it was. This is something that they mentioned last week on Raw, and I just didn't bother to write it down because I knew what it was going to be, and it doesn't fucking matter at all. The WWE finally announced the launching of its network that it's been trying to get together for the last year or two. And I've heard some of the details on it. It does not sound all that great. Basically all it is a Netflix type of option where you can watch all kinds of... you can watch great classic matches as well as classic episodes of Raw, and I think you can even watch Monday Nitro from WCW. They have one thing where they have the Monday Night Wars sort of thing where they're going the head-to-head thing. And they're going to be doing this stupid reality show called Legends House, where a bunch of the WWE legends, including Roddy Piper and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, it's basically like a real-world type of show, but with WWE legends. So they're going to take a bunch of legends and put them in this house, and hilarity will ensue. Not really. The only other big bonus to this WWE Network thing, you pay essentially $10 a month, and you get all of these videos, and you can watch all these old episodes of Raw and SmackDown and all this other stuff. You will also get every current WWE pay-per-view pretty much for free, as long as you are paying for the monthly subscription to the network. You pay $10 a month, and you can watch every pay-per-view, current pay-per-view. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. And they even broke it down. A year's worth of WWE pay-per-views, which are all pretty much $55, aside from, I think, WrestleMania, which is $70. All that added up is like $600-something. So if you're insane enough to actually pay for WWE pay-per-views, this is perfect for you. You pay $10 a month, and you can watch every pay-per-view. Who gives a fuck? Anyways, after all that bullshit, they cut to a commercial. And when they come back, oh right, the network thing they were talking about is we're going to have a video explaining all of that. After the commercial, they do the network video and whatever, and it also announces the launch of the network is going to be on February 24th, and they have this nifty little countdown clock that's counting down to the launch of the network. And apparently it goes live right after Raw on February 24th, so yeah. Anyways, after all that stupid crap, they cut backstage to the office where Kane is playing around with his phone, whatever. Brad Maddox comes up and says that, as the director of operations, you really should be worried about what happened last night with the Wyatts and the Usos, the disqualification and the blatant breaking of the rules and all this shit. And Kane basically says, as the director of operations, I can only really control what happens here. You're the general manager. You're supposed to be enforcing the rules. So why don't you do something about it? And so Brad says, well, you know what? I think I will do something about it. We're going to have the Usos versus Bray and Daniel Bryan again later tonight, but it's going to be a cage match. A steel cage match. And Kane says, you know what? That's a pretty good idea, but I think I can make it better. I'm going to lock the cage door, and I'm going to be the only one who's going to have the key. Kane says this. So, yeah. At first thought, you would kind of think, okay, we had the thing a while back where Kane was abducted by the Wyatts. And then he came back completely fine, but instantly turned heel by aligning himself with the Authority, giving Stephanie his mask, and becoming the director of operations. You'd think where they were going with that storyline is, okay, Kane's actually working for the Wyatts, but he's doing this whole act of being corporate to kind of infiltrate the Authority to get their trust. You'd think that's where they were going with this. But apparently, the writers have just completely forgotten that Kane was ever abducted by the Wyatts. I need to get something to drink. You'd think that's where this was going, but no. But we'll get back to that later on. Cutting back to the arena, the Big Show comes out. And then we cut to a commercial. And when we come back, the Real Americans music is playing. They're all in the ring. And we find out that it's Swagger that's going to be fighting the Big Show. And before we get the match, we get a recap of last week of Show coming out to confront Brock Lesnar. Yada yada, who gives a fuck. The match between Show and Swagger starts, and basically finishes just as quickly as it started. I didn't even watch because it didn't really fucking care. But Big Show hit the KO punch on Swagger and he gets the win. After the match, Cesaro comes into the ring to try and go after Show, but Show turns around and sees him, and so Cesaro gets chased off, basically. And Zeb Coulter is in the ring attending to Swagger. Show turns around and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna knock this ugly motherfucker out, yeah. He basically kind of creeps up behind Coulter, who's down on his knees looking at Swagger, are you okay, are you okay? Finally, Coulter gets up. I don't know why the hell he couldn't tell that Big Show was behind him, considering he was facing the Titantron, the big screen, and you could clearly see it. But again, WWE logic, you're not supposed to notice that if you're a heel wrestler or whatever. I'm sorry, but with all the supposed reality garbage that they're trying to throw into this, why wouldn't they think that would be an okay thing to do? Realistically speaking, you could look at the Titantron and go, oh look, Big Show's behind me, I should probably get out of the fucking ring. And Big Show's so slow, it's not like it wouldn't be hard to get away from him. Anyways, Show goes after Zeb, grabs him. Cesaro comes in from behind, but basically just gets clobbered by Show and thrown out of the ring. And then Show turns back to Zeb, who's trying to get out of the ring, I think. But Show grabs him and pulls him back into the ring. And after holding on to him for way too damn long, he winds up real big like Donkey Kong in, Super Smash Bros. Winding up that fucking punch. And then he hangs on to it for a minute and does the thing, and then he finally clocks him after way too much stalling. But he lays out Coulter. Segment over. After that, the announcers, once again, we see the stupid versus screen, the big 6-man tag, the Outlaws and Punk versus the Shield. That's going to be next, and they cut to a commercial. And coming back from the commercial, they show another Batista video. Who gives a fuck? The Outlaws come out and they do their shtick, and then they introduce Punk, and Punk comes out, and then the Shield comes out, and we get the match. And Jesus, I was really, I don't know, man. It's just been a lousy day. I'm finding it real hard to get interested in the WWE. Start the day off with my computer going haywire on me. Got it fixed. So, we're still here tonight despite technical difficulties. But anyways, back to the show. During the match, Punk is able to do the suicide dive on Reigns, and then they cut to a commercial. And then there was this spot where Punk was kind of throated on the second rope, right? Kind of like he'd been set up for the 619, but no. But anyways, Reigns, from on the outside of the ring, comes running, jumps up, drop kicks Punk in the face, and he lands on the apron. So that was kind of a cool spot. Reigns also goes over towards the corner with the Outlaws and tells them to suck it. He gives them the little crotch chop. And I thought that was funny, because this whole show can suck it, quite frankly. Turning around, of course, the distraction, or I don't know, Reigns was kind of distracting himself. He turns around and gets roundhoused in the face by Punk. And then Punk goes over towards the corner to tag in one of the Outlaws for the hot tag. But just as Punk gets close, what else happens? In a heel turn that surprises absolutely nobody who knows the history of the Outlaws, they jump down off of the apron and leave Punk high and dry. I can't believe Punk acted surprised, because honestly, coming from two guys who spent most of their career being best friends with Triple H, again, honestly, this is not a surprise. Anyways, they fuck off. Punk is left by himself, but he clears out Rollins and Ambrose. He knocks them both off the apron, because basically after the Outlaws left, the Shield basically tried to surround Punk and attack him from all sides. But Rollins got backdropped out of the ring. Ambrose got knocked off the apron out of the ring. But then, of course, Punk turns around, gets speared by Reigns. It's actually kind of a weak spear compared to his normal. But yeah, he gets speared. Punk does. Reigns covers him, gets the win. So the Shield wins. The match was all right. After the match, the Shield goes to leave, but then Reigns is like, no, wait, let's go back. They get back in the ring, they pick Punk up, triple powerbomb, and then they leave. So again, Punk's getting shit on. We cut backstage to the dark lit room, wherever the fuck it is, where the Wyatts hang out, and there's them. Bray's talking about being in a cage. He's talking about the cage match, of course, coming up. And Bryan says one line, and then Bray kind of leans in from off camera in like one of those horror movie type of cuts. They really want to try to push this horror movie type of aesthetic with the Wyatts. It just doesn't work. I can't be afraid of a tubby, stringy-haired, bearded guy with ugly tattoos in a fucking Hawaiian shirt. He's not really all that intimidating at all, and his two flunkies don't really scare me either. Whatever. They finish the promo, and they do the cutaway gag, and they go to commercial. And when they come back, the Funkadactyls are already in the ring. I heard the Brodus music, and I'm like, oh Christ, are Woods and Truth wrestling? No. It's just the Funkadactyls. It's time for a Divas tag match. Oh, goody. But there's an upshot. AJ's music hits, and out she comes with Tamina, so at least there's one competent wrestler here. Still doesn't save the match, because it still turns out to be shit. Most of the match was Cameron getting her ass kicked by Tamina. And then Tamina goes over and tags in AJ, and AJ beats the hell out of Cameron for a minute before hitting the Shining Wizard on her and getting the win. So AJ and Tamina win. AJ and Tamina go to attack Cameron some more after the match. In comes Naomi, who gives Tamina an enziguri and whatever the fuck. So we still end with the Funkadactyls' shitty music playing. Whatever. We cut backstage to one of the hallways where Randy Orton has just showed up, and he's frantically looking for Triple H and Stephanie, and he's pissed. Whatever. Commentators hype up the cage match for later, and they also hype up that up next, we're going to hear the announcement of the first inductee to the Hall of Fame this year. And they cut to a commercial. And when they come back, we're in the office again with Kane. And then Randy comes up and he's yelling, where's Triple H and Stephanie? Kane actually announces they're not here this week. Some good news. Not that it really helps much. Kane continues to say, you know, you're all fired up. How about I give you a way to vent all that frustration? I'm going to give you a match with Kofi Kingston. Because Kofi's a total jobber, right? Yeah. After that segment, we see that the first inductee to the Hall of Fame this year is the Ultimate Warrior. And they show a video package. It's great. I was actually an Ultimate Warrior fan. His promos were so fucking awesome. They were psychotic as all hell, and almost on the borderline of being just incoherent rambling. But it fit the character, so it worked. Say whatever you want, I don't care. A lot of the hate for the Ultimate Warrior over the years, he supposedly held up Vince for more money at SummerSlam the one year. I'm pretty sure that's either a complete exaggeration or just an outright lie. Nobody really knows the truth, aside from Vince and the Warrior. So, speculation is a fool's game, is essentially what I'm saying. Anyways, but whatever, after that, we cut backstage to Renee Young, who's in the interview area, and she's with Paul Heyman. She segues into a recap of, again, the same thing we saw earlier, the recap from last week, the show coming out to confront Brock, yada yada. Heyman starts talking, and I couldn't be bothered to listen because it's really getting old. I don't give a fuck about Brock, and I don't give a fuck about anybody who associates with Brock. So Heyman, no matter how good of a promo you can cut, I still don't give a fuck what you say, because you're with Brock. So by proxy, you can both go fuck yourselves. Back in the arena, Randy's music hits and he comes out. And then we cut to a commercial, about halfway through Randy's entrance. And I was kind of expecting for Kofi to already be in the ring when we come back, but no. We come back from the commercial, and Kofi's music just hits, and he starts coming out. He gets his whole entrance. And we have a match. Now, this match was boring as all fucking hell, because it's basically a squash match. Randy spends most of the match just beating the shit out of Kofi. They brawl around on the outside, yada yada, they're back inside. Kofi doesn't get a whole lot of offense in the match. He gets a little bit, but not much. My notes here, yawn, there's a commercial break. They brawled out to the outside, and I think Randy ate the ring steps or something, and I think Michael Cole was saying that Randy's lip was busted open. Whatever. Randy gets pissed off after that, of course. Yada yada. Back in the ring, Kofi goes for the boom drop. He's able to get enough offense to get Randy down and set him up for the boom drop. But he goes for it, he does his little boof thing, and he jumps up and Randy rolls out of the way, which I'm pretty sure is the first time I've ever seen anybody roll out of the way of Kofi's boom drop. Not like it's any big deal or anything. But Randy moved out of the way, and Kofi lands on his ass. I think after that, Randy grabbed him, threw him through the ropes to go onto the apron for the rope-hung DDT, but he goes for it. Kofi jumps in and grabs Randy around the waist, flips him around, and does the SOS on him. And Kofi gets the win with the SOS, which is a move he ripped off from a guy who I think created the move in Japan, and Kofi does it horribly every fucking time. Kofi wins the damn match. Of course, he gets the hell out of there before Randy beats the shit out of him. Like I said, the match was boring as hell and it went on for way too long. This was like 10 minutes or more. Way too damn long. And most of it was, again, just Randy beating the shit out of Kofi. And again, another note is fucking LOL that Kofi actually won. And the story is that Randy was trying to use this to take out his frustrations, wouldn't just finish Kofi off, because he could have at several points during the match. He could have finished him off, but he said, no, I'm going to torture this guy. I'm going to take out my frustrations. Kofi took advantage of it and managed to get a cheap win. Anyways, like I said, Kofi got the hell out of there, but Randy's still pissed. He's still down by the ringside area. He flips the ringside steps, moves them over. He goes over to the announce table. He pulls the stupid topper thing off it and throws that aside. And then he's walking over by the other side of the ring. And they're in Providence, Rhode Island, which isn't too far away from Cena's hometown of West Newbury, Massachusetts. So for some strange reason, John Cena's dad is in the crowd. And he's in the front row again. Guess what happens? Randy's yelling at the crowd. They're yelling shit at him. He's telling them to shut up. He goes over. He happens to look out of the corner of his eye, and he sees Cena's dad. Not even paying attention, but he sees Cena's dad. Grabs him, forces him to the floor, whacks him a couple of times, punches him. Security comes over and pulls Randy off. And then, of course, down comes Cena, who chases Randy off even more. And then, of course, Cena has to go over and tend to his dad. He grabs the ringside doctor, and they gotta go into the crowd. And they take like 5 fucking minutes showing them tending to Cena's dad. And then they cut to a commercial break. And when they come back, Cena's dad is being stretchered out, and we get a recap of what just happened. And after the recap, Cena's dad is still being stretchered out, and they finally get him into an ambulance, and Cena goes with him. Cutting back to the arena, Cody Rhodes and Goldust come out. And then Ryback and Curtis Axel come out. We got us another tag match. And this is where the just terrible... Well, this is not even where it starts. This is actually where it continues, because the last match was boring as fuck, Orton and Kofi, and now we get the Rhodes versus Ryback. Another boring match. The crowd starts chanting. I don't know if they were chanting boring or Goldberg, but I'm pretty sure they were chanting both. There was boring chant and there was Goldberg chant. What ends up happening is Goldust and Ryback get wiped out at ringside, and Axel goes for his hanging facebuster thingy on Cody. Cody counters out of it right into the crossroads. He hits it, pins Axel, and gets the win. And the crowd couldn't give a fuck. They were dead. We cut backstage to another one of the hallways. We see Rey Mysterio, who's getting ready to come out for a match, which is up next. And Michael Cole says he's going against Alberto Del Rio. So great, we get that match again. Commercial break. And another Batista video. And when we come back from the commercial, Rey's music hits and he comes out to no reaction. Crowd is still dead. And while he's coming out, they actually do another picture-in-a-picture promo of Rey cutting a promo from earlier, whatever the fuck. And then Alberto Del Rio comes out to also no reaction. And we get another lame match, Mysterio versus Del Rio. All I could really bother to take down was the finish. Rey hit the 619 on Del Rio, and then he went up to the top rope to go for the drop in the dime. But Del Rio gets up and kicks Rey in the stomach, which he falls down and crotches himself on the top rope, and then he falls forward. He's kind of like inverted Tree of Woe kind of position. Del Rio comes running, and he kind of does the concussion kick, but he kicks Rey in the back. And then Rey, of course, falls off the top rope. Del Rio locks him in the cross arm breaker, and Rey taps out. So Del Rio wins. Crowd is dead. Del Rio gets a microphone, and he talks again about Batista again, saying basically the same thing. I'm going to eliminate you from the Royal Rumble. Nobody's going to remember you. They'll be talking about me. No, you're fucking not, Del Rio. They're bringing this guy back. They're not going to have him lose to a clown like you. As much as I hate to say it. More hype for the cage match, and they cut to a commercial. And coming back from the commercial, they show another video about the stupid network. And this is basically a recap of the press conference that they did announcing the network, and it has a lot of clips of Stephanie talking up the shit that's going to be on the network, and all the other superstars. They had Michaels and Triple H doing their DX gimmick talking about it, and then they even had Stone Cold Steve Austin come out and talk about it. Whatever the fuck. After that, we cut back to the office one more time with Kane again, who is interrupted by CM Punk, who's pissed off about what happened earlier with the Outlaws. He wants to see the Authority. Oh no, actually, this is where Kane tells us that the Authority's not here tonight. It was here. So yeah, They're not here, and Kane also says that, you know what, I just got confirmation from the authority on my phone here that they're giving you an opportunity to main event WrestleMania. And he's telling this to Punk. The reason why you have an opportunity to main event WrestleMania is because you've been entered into the Royal Rumble. So yeah, Punk's in the Rumble. Whatever. After that, they cut into a really terrible promo from the Usos doing this stupid thing where one of them's talking in Samoan or some shit, I don't know. Apparently he was reciting pretty much word for word this Samoan prayer or thing that it is. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it cuts from one Uso to the other one. One of them says the Samoan language version, and then the other one says it in English. And they cut back and forth, and then finally they do half and half screen, one on each side, and they do the, when we say oos, y'all say oh, and they had to pipe in the crowd going oh because it was a pre-tape. Whatever the fuck. After that, they cut back to the arena where they show that the cage is now around the ring. So we're getting ready for the match. The Wyatts' music hits and they do their full entrance. And then they cut to a commercial. And when they come back from the commercial, they announce that for SmackDown this week, the New Age Outlaws are going to go against Cody Rhodes and Goldust. It's not going to be a tag team title match, but who gives a shit? After that, they show a recap, again, of Orton losing to Kofi earlier and then flipping out and beating the shit out of Cena's dad and then him being stretchered out and everything and yada yada. I don't know why they're recapping this, but whatever. Finally, the Usos' music hits and they get their full entrance. And then Kane comes out. He gets his pyro and everything too. And he comes out with this big chain and a padlock. Just like he said, he comes out, he locks the cage door, and he's holding the key, I guess. So we get the match. The match really wasn't all that great, even for a cage match. One of the Usos tries to escape, but he gets stopped. One of the Usos is standing on the top rope with Bryan. They're again hanging onto the cage, fighting each other. They're holding on. They're standing on the top rope. The Uso cinches Bryan up for a Russian leg sweep, and he does it off the top of the rope. So they fall. That was a kind of a big bump. After that, they cut to a commercial, and when we come back, the Usos hit a double team super back suplex from the top rope on Bryan. Bray goes to hit the Sister Abigail on one of the Usos, but for his trouble, he eats a super kick to the face from the other Uso. The Usos try to escape again together, but they get blocked by Bray and Bryan. But the Usos fight him off, knock him down. Bray even gets crotched on the top rope. They're both falling, into the ring. They're both wiped out. The Usos climb up the cage, and they climb down. One of them dives down and crossbodies. I don't remember if it was Harper or Rowan. I think it was Harper. He crossbodies Harper, so he escapes. And no, it was Rowan. He crossbodies Rowan, and then Harper, who was on the other side of the cage trying to block the other Uso, he stupidly walks over around the corner, allowing the other Uso to jump down fine and escape, so the Usos win. But the Usos get kind of jumped by Harper and Rowan, but the Usos fight them off, and they back up the ramp, and they leave again. So we basically get the same finish from the earlier match, only this time it was with a fucking cage. Back in the ring, Bray and Bryan are still in the cage, and Bray is blaming Bryan for the loss. And he whispers in his ear again, And Bryan holds out his arms and gets down on his knees again. Bray grabs him and goes to give him the Sister Abigail again, but Bryan fights out of it and shoves him off. The crowd are cheering like crazy, even chanting, Daniel Bryan, you know. And Bray's yelling at him, saying, you don't got the guts to hit me. He's even asking for it. Come on, hit me. Bray even gets down on his knees, holding his arms out, you know. Like, he says, you're a coward, all this shit. He gets up, and he backs up, and then he goes to charge Bryan. Bryan's in the corner. Bryan jumps around of it. Bryan starts attacking, beating the shit out of Bray. Crowd's loving it. This is like the only exciting thing to happen all night. So Bryan, I don't even really think he ever turned heel in the first place, but he's decided he ain't gonna take no more shit from the Wyatts. He's beating the shit out of Bray, gets him down, he's doing the repeating chest kicks, and then he backs up, and he even gets the big roundhouse to the head. He nails him with that. After Bray goes down from that, Bryan backs up and he starts pulling off the stupid grayish jumpsuit he's wearing. He's got his normal trunks and his normal boots underneath and everything, and everybody's like, yay, he's still wearing his personality outfit and everything, right? And finally, Harper and Rowan, I don't know where the hell they disappeared to for a minute, but they were gone during that whole beating. I don't know where the fuck they were. Finally, they come back, and they're trying to climb the cage to get in and stop Bryan, but Bryan picks up Bray, rams him head first into the cage, knocks off Harper, and then does the same thing on the other side to knock off Rowan. So Bray's down, Bryan backs up into the corner, yes, yes, and the crowd's chanting along, yes, yes, and he comes running, hits the big super knee on Bray, wipes him out. Crowd's loving it, of course, because, you know, they never should have fucking tried to put Bryan with the Wyatts in the first place. Bryan climbs up to the top of the cage, and he's more, yes, 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 and his music starts playing, the Flight of the Valkyries, yes, yes, and there's more with the yes, yes, and the crowd chanting along, and that's where the show ends. Bryan doesn't even climb fully out of the cage, he's still at the top. But tell you what, it was the only fucking good thing to happen on this entire show. 3 goddamn hours. Once again. And only one really cool thing happens. Bryan not having any more of the Wyatts shit. He's done with them, and thank God it couldn't have come sooner, because honestly, they never should have started with it. Anyways, just to recap once again the matches that we saw. Show started with the tag team match, the regular tag team match of the Usos versus Bray and Bryan, which ended in a DQ when Harper and Rowan interfered. Match wasn't really all that great. And then we had Damien Sandow versus John Cena, which was decent despite Cena winning. And then we had the Big Show squashing Jack Swagger in a very quick match. Was not really that good. And then we had the Outlaws stabbing Punk in the back against the Shield, with the Shield winning. Was still a decent match, actually. But again, who honestly didn't see the Outlaws bailing on Punk? Who didn't see that coming? These guys who, like I said, spent half their careers being buddies with Triple H in DX. Obviously. See, that was my whole problem with them being friendly with Punk in the first place. I'm like, Punk, why are you trusting these guys? You know who they are. You know that they're friends with Triple H. Anyways. And then we had the Terrible Divas tag match, the Funkadactyls losing to AJ and Tamina, only for Naomi to beat the hell out of Tamina and AJ after the match. Don't know why they're trying to build up Naomi. She's a terrible wrestler. And I really don't think a match between her and AJ for the Divas title is really gonna be good to have for the Royal Rumble. Just awful. And then after that, we had the Randy Orton losing to Kofi Kingston in a match that was way too long and boring as hell. And Kofi wins with an awful SOS roll-up. And then we had the Rhodes Brothers beating Ryback in another boring match. And then we had the third boring match in a row, Mysterio and Del Rio, with Del Rio winning with the cross arm breaker. And then we had the cage match, Bray and Bryan losing to the Usos, only to end with Bryan finally getting his payback, beating the shit out of Bray Wyatt, and I'm gonna guess this is going to lead to a one-on-one match at the Royal Rumble, Bryan versus Bray. Who knows what stupid stipulations they're gonna try and do with it, whether they're gonna try and figure out a way to keep Harper and Rowan the hell out, or if they might even go so far as to make it another 3-on-1 handicap match. I don't know, and I really don't care. The Royal Rumble pay-per-view this year is already shaping up to be crap. I gotta tell you. You've got the return of Batista, who's gonna be in the Royal Rumble. Fuck you. We've got Punk, who's going to be in the Royal Rumble. Okay, fine. If Punk can win at the Royal Rumble, or win the Royal Rumble, that would be nice. Probably not going to happen, though. How much you want to bet that the Authority is giving Punk this golden opportunity to be in the Royal Rumble, but they've already picked his number for him. They're going to force him to be number 1. And they're going to try and make him Iron Man the whole Royal Rumble. Which, again, would be an impressive feat for Punk to accomplish, and it's not like he can't. But still, lame. A bunch of other people were announced to be in the Royal Rumble. I believe Cody Rhodes and Goldust are both going to be in the Rumble. Kofi's probably going to be in the Royal Rumble. I'm pretty sure they said something about that. Cena probably... No, Cena won't be in the Rumble because he's in the title match versus Orton. Yeah, and speaking of the title match, again, whoop-de-doo rematch from last month. Fuck's sake. Like I said, the Royal Rumble's just not shaping up to be very good. There's going to be something with Daniel Bryan and the Wyatts. There's going to be... God only knows if there's going to be a tag team title match. And are we ever going to see Dean Ambrose defend his United States title? Because, honestly, it's been quite a while since he's defended that belt. Honestly, he should have been stripped of it by now. And I hate to say that because I like Ambrose. But he hasn't defended the title in a long freaking time. Not only that, but I heard a report earlier today that said... Since the WWE unified the WWE and World Heavyweight titles, they're thinking of doing the same thing with the Intercontinental and the US titles. So we just might end up having a match between Big E and Dean Ambrose to unify those. And considering the last time Big E and Ambrose went head-to-head, I don't think we got a definitive ending. So, yeah. So that could happen at the Rumble, although I doubt it. They might save that for WrestleMania. But yeah, like I said, the Royal Rumble pay-per-view is just not looking all that great this year already. They haven't really announced a whole lot, but I'm guessing they're going to work towards Naomi and AJ for the Divas title. Hopefully AJ can retain, because... The commentators, when AJ was coming out for her match with the Funkatwits, I think it was Michael Cole mentioned that AJ is second or third longest reign so far in days. She's very close to surpassing Maurice, who is the current title holder of longest Divas champion reign. Honestly, I think if AJ can surpass Maurice's number of days, I think AJ should frickin' retire the Divas title and bring back the Women's title. Because honestly, that Divas belt is ugly as fuck. The stupid butterfly thing. It's a silver belt with a pink butterfly on it. It's like so girly and lame. This does not look like the belt of a proud female wrestler. Every woman who has held that belt just looked like an idiot because of the belt is so stupid looking. Like, there's no gold in it. That doesn't look like a wrestling title. It should be gold. It's like when they had the Mark Henry Platinum ECW title belt. It looked like shit. That's not a title belt. Anyways, bitching aside. Yeah, that was Raw. It sucked up until the very end, just like last week. So yeah, that was Raw once again from January 13th, 2014 from Providence, Rhode Island. I'm fucking bored of this shit. See you in a couple of days for SmackDown. Good night.